What is the significance of imagination, khayāl, for Ibn Arabi? Is this imagination equal or different from fantasy? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be analyzing Ibn Arabi's influential conception of imagination. The definitions that I will be using and the framework I will be using here, of course, comes from Ibn Arabi, especially in Fuṣūṣ of Joseph in the Fuṣūṣ al-Ḥikam, but the framing, if you want to read in detail, comes from Henry Corbin, his influential work, his very, very well-written work, The Creative Imagination in the Sufism of Ibn Arabi. For Ibn Arabi, imagination, or in Arabic, al-Khayāl, is the intermediary between thought and being. It is the incarnation of thought in image and presence of image in being. It is neither fantasy nor subjective illusion, but an organ of knowledge because it creates being. Unlike fantasy, imagination possesses a noetic value that is related to intellect. This sentence is very important. It is the means through which reality becomes manifest. Therefore, importantly, imagination is ontological, not just psychological. It is not like illusion. Importantly, it performs the act of manifestation. In one level, it mediates between the intelligible world and the corporeal world, that is the material world. And on another level that I will be explaining, it mediates the pure essence and the world of forms. As Corbin, English Corbin, puts it, it is the organ of creation. Because for Ibn Arabi, creation is essentially theophanic. Having understood that imagination for Ibn Arabi is an ontological, not psychological medium, now let us see what creative imagination is for Ibn Arabi through the language of Henry Corbin. Those who are watching our Ibn Arabi podcast are familiar with Ibn Arabi's al-Faith al-Aqdas, that is the most holy emanation. Right, just to summarize, in creation, the pure, simple essence in which there is no plurality, distinction, even there is no divine name in that stage, absolute existence, emanates, forming the world of divine names, still in essential level, called the Wahidiyya stage of the essence. Hence, the world of plurality in the world of God's knowledge is formed. And for Ibn Arabi, the intelligible forms of divine names are what he calls fixed entities, al-a'yan al-thabita. Now, again, these are very technical topics, so I suggest watching particular videos that I have created for them to understand what a'yan al-thabita means, what how Muhammadan reality fits here, what that faith al-aqdas is in detail. But for now, for the purposes of this video, emanation starts from that simple absolute existence coming to the world of God's names in his knowledge, forming, some call it archetype, but archetype is not a pleasant word because it leads to misunderstanding, forming fixed entities, that is the quiddities, or more accurately, the whatness of entities. The whatness of humans, the whatness of trees. Though some believe that only humans have fixed entities, but that's not the point of discussion here. Let's consider that all beings' quiddities are in the world of God's knowledge, pre-creation, pre-material creation, and each is called fixed entity. Through a second emanation called the sacred emanation, al-Faith al-Muqaddas, the corporeal and imaginal entities are formed. The intelligible forms in the divine knowledge assume existence, that is external existence, in the world of imagination, in the world of corporeality. So with these two, and with understanding of that essence, let us see how imagination fits here. Corbin identifies the first primary emanation, that metacosmic emanation within God's knowledge, al-Faith al-Aqdas, the most holy emanation. He identifies it with unconditioned absolute imagination, al-khayāl al-mutlaq. Let us see what that means. Corbin writes, quote, "The initial theophanic operation by which the divine being reveals himself, shows himself to himself, by differentiating himself in his hidden being." He's talking about the pure essence manifesting inwardly the divine names. That is, by manifesting to himself the virtualities of his names with their correlata, the external hexaities of beings, their prototype latent in the essence. We are talking about ayana thabita, the fixed entities in the world of God's knowledge. This process is conceived as being the creative, active imagination, the theophanic imagination, two synonyms. Now, primordial cloud, we don't need to get into details of this for now, consider the world of God's names. The primordial cloud, absolute or theophanic imagination, synonyms, are equivalent notions expressing the same original reality, the divine being from whom all things are created, al-Haqq al-Makhluq bihi kulli shay', which amounts to saying the creator creature, for the cloud is the creator, since it is the sigh he exhales. By the sigh, we are talking about what Ibn Arabi calls the divine breath, in allusion to the Quranic verse where God says, "When I created Adam, I breathed into him of my spirit." This bestowal of his spirit is referred to as the divine breath, since it is the sigh he exhales, and since it is hidden in him. As such, the cloud is the invisible, the esoteric, batin, and it is manifested creature, zahir, creator creature. This means that the divine being is the hidden and the revealed. The primordial cloud, we're talking about the world of divine names, is the locus of divine self-manifestation before corporeal creation, and Corbin refers to it as absolute unconditioned imagination. But here we should be careful. We said at the beginning that the world of imagination is the intermediary realm between the intelligible world and the material world. The world of imagination comes in between. Here we're not necessarily talking about that, because here there is even no material creation. When we say that, when Ibn Arabi refers to, or Corbin refers to, the world of God's knowledge as absolute unconditioned imagination, we are talking about an ontological creative power. Imagination is invoked here not in the sense of images that mediating images between the world of senses and the intelligible world, but because this imagination is the power of revelation itself, the theophany itself, the act by which the hidden essence, the absolute essence, manifests itself through his names. As Corbin explains, creation is epiphany, that is tajalli. That is, a passage from the state of occultation or potency to luminous, manifest, revealed state. As such, it is an act of divine primordial imagination. Hence, even in the pre-corporeal sphere, imagination is operative as the ontological bridge between the unknowable essence and the plane of the divine names. It is not imagination as mental picturing, but imagination as cosmic mediation, the way the essence shows itself to itself. Another important term here is active imagination, synonymously faculty of imagination, quwwat al-khayāl. Now, before we define it, the question is this: how does this theophanic imagination relate to humans, other than creating us? How do we understand God through imagination? By this point, we've already learned that Imagination is not a fantasy, it's an ontological operation, but how do we make use of it to know God and His names? The active imagination for humans is the faculty, the organ in which this divine energy operates. It is the faculty, the intermediary realm where spiritual truths are materialized. Not material, but they assume form in that intermediate realm, and the material forms are spiritualized. It is the barzakh, the isthmus, between these two realms, between the material realm and the spiritual realm. This imagination, that organ, that world, if you may, is exactly where these two planes, these two domains come in contact. How people in the material world contact the spiritual world and vice versa. As Corbin puts it, our active imagination is a moment, an instant of the divine imagination that is universe, which is itself total theophany. This active imagination is therefore limited only by its individual form, not by unreality. It is real, but it is limited. The human imagination mirrors the divine imagination in miniature, continually reenacting the primordial creative act within the human heart, individually. Active imagination then is limited only by its individual form. This individual human imagination mirrors divine imagination, continually reenacting theophanic creation in the human heart. Corbin writes, the entire universe of worlds is at once He, that is God, and not He, huwa la huwa in Arabic. The God manifested in forms is at once Himself and other than Himself. For since He is manifested, He is the limited, which has no limit. That is, this manifested form is the limited of that unlimited essence. The visible, which cannot be seen. This manifestation is neither perceptible nor verifiable by the sensory faculties. This curse of reason rejects this. It is perceptible only by the active imagination. At times, when this active imagination dominates man's sense perceptions, in dreams, or better still, in the waking state, in the state characteristic of the Gnostic, when he departs from the consciousness of sensuous things. In short, a mystic perception, or dhawq, is required to perceive all forms as theophanic forms. Madahir is precisely to effect the encounter, the coincidence between God's descent towards the creature and the creature's ascent towards the Creator. The place of this encounter is specifically the active imagination, in the manner of a bridge joining two banks of a river. The crossing itself is essentially a hermeneutics of symbols, ta'wil, ta'bir in Arabic, a method of understanding which transmutes sensory data and rational concepts into symbols, an intermediary, a mediatrix. Such is the essential function of the active imagination. In the last sentence, Corbin is saying that the spiritual truth that comes from the intelligible, divine realm are transmitted to the human through symbols and images in the world of imagination. They should be translated into conceptual, rational data so that it can be comprehended when the mystic is conscious again. For Ibn Arabi then, imagination is the ontological power of manifestation, the barzakh, isthmus, through which the hidden divine essence discloses itself in form, in this higher plane, this ontological level. It is not imaging, but being's act of showing itself, the bridge joining the creator and creation, spirit and body, a noble essence and a noble appearance. Now, this was an introductory definition level video. This imagination that Ibn Arabi is teaching us is fundamental and very influential. If you want to understand Islamic metaphysics, especially Ibn Arabi, we need to understand more we need to understand this imagination more. Therefore, I will be preparing a series of videos on this topic. Depending on when you're watching this video, maybe I have already created them. So check the description. Thanks for watching.